This is the Bastard Star Wars RPG Deep Dive Podcast.
Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a rebel heist, meticulously planned for a quiet infiltration. Then it just explodes into chaos, into violence because of, well, one unexpected human factor. It's exactly what we're diving into today. We're taking a deep dive into source material detailing a really pivotal session from a Star Wars tabletop role-playing game campaign, Chronicles of the Tapani Rebellion. Our sources, they include session summaries, detailed combat analyses, and even direct transcript excerpts from the game itself.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is how we can take this complex, almost sprawling narrative, with all its unexpected twists and turns, and we can really distill it down to some core lessons about leadership, teamwork, and just the sheer unpredictability of rebellion. You're going to gain a quick, thorough understanding of how these player choices and, frankly, character quirks dramatically shaped a really high-stakes mission for the Rebel Alliance.
So the stage is set for a pretty desperate mission. The rebellion, it's still finding its footing, really, and they are in dire need of Bacta, that miracle healing biokel. It's absolutely crucial for their wounded freedom fighters.
Absolutely. Can't sustain a fight without catching people up.
Exactly. And Luthen Rael, the rebellion's sort of secretive benefactor, he presents a plan that, well, on the surface it sounds completely insane. The goal: steal starfighters from an Imperial orbital starfighter repair depot. This is on Tatooine, which is a free world known for its mix of, let's say, lawlessness and entertainment.
A dangerous place to operate.
Right. Then use those stolen ships to hijack a Bacta transport. The reward for pulling this off: a starfighter for each participant. Enough to form a whole new fighter wing for operations against the Empire, specifically in the vital Tapani sector.
And this immediately raises a really important question for any kind of rebellion, doesn't it? What's the true cost of something so vital like Bacta? And maybe more importantly, what kind of people are actually willing to pay that price? Because Bacta isn't just, medical supplies here. It's the lifeblood. It keeps a growing rebellion alive. And the Tapani sector, as we learn, it's a critical resource route. So this mission isn't just daring, it's strategically paramount for survival.
And early on, we see some interesting character dynamics starting to play out. There's a fellow stormtrooper, Tylo Olden, who makes the, pragmatic choice to leave the group to avoid suspicion.
Smart moves, probably.
Probably. The team then travels to Talan, as planned. Their first major encounter is at the Cretan Thumper races. It's quite a scene. This is where they meet Hamar Chaktak, this boisterous Herglick smuggler, the big whale-like species. He's at the Heather Downs Hotel. And Hamar, being Herglick, only concludes deals through, get this, superstitious gambling.
Only in Star Wars.
Right. And what truly stands out here, I think, is how this mercenary character, Skyrus Prime, he's described as this self-interested operative, greedy bird dude. His motto is apparently, it's not called skimming when you're your own boss. Well, he hits a massive payout right before this dangerous mission. He wins 100,000 credits betting on some dark horse contender called Fanciful Illusion.
And that massive win, as you pointed out, it immediately signals his true motivations, doesn't it? It becomes this recurring point of tension later on. And it's not just about his greed, I think. It really illustrates the dangerous tightrope these rebellious groups walk, recruiting talent from the criminal underworld. Their skills are vital, sure, but their motivations, often inherently self-serving. It's like a ticking time bomb for team cohesion.
That's a great point. And after these successful and apparently quite entertaining Herglick negotiations, Hamar provides some additional support for the mission. 3 thermal detonators. Useful. And a contact at the repair depot, a guy named Rofel Masson. Oh, and there's also this brief, kind of amusing but pretty slimy encounter with Hamar's muscle, Valka. Apparently, he crudely spat on Flick Barnaba, one of the player characters, a playboy noble type. Just adds to the flavor, I guess.
It certainly paints a picture of the environment they're in. And, we even see Luthen Rael himself at one point almost provocatively questioning Conrad's recruitment choices. Conrad's the sort of nominal leader here. Luthen implies Conrad might have, quote, misunderstood the valor of the men he assembled. Which really highlights that clash, doesn't it? The practical realities of rebellion bumping up against any kind of initial idealism creates internal friction before the mission even properly starts.
Okay, so the team then meets this contact, Rofel Masson. He's described as a greasy, shifty-looking mechanic, apparently deep in debt to Hamar, so leverage.
Always useful.
Despite his unsavory appearance, Rafael provides absolutely crucial intel on the Imperial Orbital Starfighter Repair Depot. He details the layout, security protocols, key personnel, really specific stuff. They learn the base commander is Commodore Traxton Bess, an Imperial loyalist from House Melantha that's powerful, traditionally pro-Imperial noble house. And maybe more importantly for this mission, the formidable Captain Brixus Aldine is there overseeing repairs. He's described as like a lion in winter kind of guy, morally questionable, and he wears a formidable jetpack.
Always the jetpacks.
Always. The team also learns that the ships they want, X-Wings and Y-Wings, they're in Bay 3. Mostly repaired, which is good, but crucially, they lack armaments. And the biggest obstacle to just flying out, the tractor beam tower. Standard Imperial security.
Right. And what's fascinating here, I think, is how Rafael, this sort of minor debt-ridden contact, he becomes absolutely crucial. His insights expose the vulnerabilities, the key players inside that Imperial facility. It just illustrates how information, even from seemingly small or, let's say, compromised sources, is real power in intelligence operations. Without his specific details, the mission would be significantly harder, maybe impossible. It really underscores that intelligence gathering is often about connecting these seemingly disparate, maybe low-level contacts.
So based on Rafael's intel, the rebels work out their plan. The easiest solution they figure for dealing with that tractor beam, blow up the power generator for the whole facility. Simple, effective, maybe
If messy.
very messy.
Yeah.
Conrad, Skyrus, and the droid G2E2, they successfully slice the security feeds. They capture and cycle raw footage to create, like a loop, a diversion. Then they plant those thermal detonators Homar gave them, setting a delayed explosion, standard heist procedure.
Seems solid enough on paper.
Yeah, and Homar also provides a new pilot for the Y-Wing, John Tailgunner. He's described as a veteran pilot, but with, let's say, alarming moral flexibility and a less-than-savory reputation.
Uh-oh.
So the plan looks solid technically,
Yeah.
but they've just brought in this major wild card. Would you say Tailgunner's questionable character is like a calculated risk? Or is it just a glaring vulnerability for the mission?
That's a really critical distinction, isn't it? Tailgunner's introduction, it definitely solidifies a potential source of future conflict, precisely because his morally reprehensible nature. I mean, the sources mention a disturbing tendency towards exploitation, violence with minimal provocation, that immediately casts a long shadow over the mission's next phase. Luthen's plan is already complex, right? Adding a variable like Tailgunner, who seems to lack any clear ideological alignment with the rebellion, it just amplifies the inherent risks massively. It really begs the question of how much control a leader like Conrad truly has over such, well, disparate personalities.
And the heist begins. Flick Barnaba, our noble, who started the day getting spat on, and Toman Tinray, the Solistan ex-stormtrooper. He's seeking revenge for a lifetime of space racism, as the source puts it, endured from the Empire. They arrive in Bay 3 to inspect the target ships.
Okay, the moment of truth approaches.
Right. John Tailgunner, heir the opportunist, he immediately jumps into the Y-Wing's gunner seat, ready for action. They are literally moments away from a clean escape, a perfectly executed stealth mission. Or so they think. Then the critical encounter unfolds. Captain Brixus Aldine, the guy with the jetpack, and a squad of Melantha soldiers approach. Now, Toma's demeanor described as impeccably imperial and confident it initially works. He convinces Brixus they're just a legitimate flight crew doing checks.
Incredible bluff. He almost pulled it off.
Almost. But then, the real turning point. As Brixus and his men are starting to leave, satisfied. Toman described as being fueled by this underlying trauma from his history with the Empire.
Yeah.
He utters the prearranged safe word for John. The word is whisper.
Whisper. That doesn't sound too provocative.
Yeah.
But okay.
Well, whatever the connotation was meant to be in their plan, the plan just unravels completely. John Tailgunner, in the Y-Wing turret, without a moment's hesitation, blasts Captain Brixus in the back with the turret cannon. So much for stealth. The plan's subtle heist explodes into a chaotic shootout, all because of that word and a trigger-happy pilot with, shall we say, questionable morals.
Wow. Okay. This is exactly where that perils and profits of rebellion idea manifests in the starkest terms. That tension between the idealistic goals and just the crude, messy reality. Toman's impulsive outburst. Maybe it was cathartic for him personally, given his backstory. But it radically alters the mission profile. Instantly. And it raises serious questions about the group's cohesion, their ability to actually operate under pressure. His recklessness, clearly fueled by past trauma, transforms this covert op into a bloody fight for survival. A total shift from stealth to just chaos.
And what follows is pure chaos, a massive firefight. Brixus, proving remarkably tough, takes significant damage from that initial blast, but he survives, thanks to high-grade laminate armor. He even uses his jetpack to recover.
Formidable indeed.
Conrad shouts for Skyrus to trigger the detonator. He fires his own blaster pistol at Brixus, but it does negligible damage against that heavy armor. Skyrus hits the switch, activates the thermal detonators. Boom! The power generator explodes, plunging the entire facility into darkness and chaos.
Yeah.
Emergency lighting probably kicks in, but it's still chaos.
Good tactical move by Skyrus, at least. Creates confusion.
Yeah, definitely. Then, in this moment of just raw, righteous fury, Toman Tinray charges Brixus. He heroically, or perhaps tragically, executes him at point-blank range with a heavy blaster rifle. The sources say he blows Brixus's head off like an overripe melon. Intense imagery.
Goodness.
And Toman screams, "I survived that ship, but you won't." A clear reference to his past trauma. But then, the enraged Melanthus soldiers just concentrate fire on him, and he's tragically killed. It's this final defiant act, a moment of, I suppose, tragic catharsis born from that deep-seated trauma, even though it cost him his life.
A powerful but devastating end for him.
Meanwhile, Flick, the noble, his blaster pistol dramatically malfunctions. Does minor damage to a trooper, but renders his own weapon useless. Bad timing. He's forced to dive for cover. Eventually, he manages to pick up Brixus's dropped heavy blaster rifle. Resourceful.
Quick thinking under fire.
And John Tailgunner. He continues his assault from the Y-wing turret. He's actually incredibly effective, eliminating several enemy soldiers. Remarkable gunnery skills are noted, all while apparently yelling out a string of incredibly crude comments. We won't repeat them here, but yeah, adds to his character profile.
Keeps things lively, I suppose, in a grim way.
Conrad and Flick valiantly battle the remaining enemies, using cover effectively in the darkness and confusion, until John, in the turret, ultimately eliminates the final enemy soldier. Amidst all this carnage, Conrad, Flick, and Skyrus fight their way to their assigned ships. And John, now that Toman's gone, assumes control of the Y-wing pilot's chair.
So they made it through.
Barely is the word. The surviving rebels manage this desperate escape. They take off in their hijacked X-wing starfighters, fleeing Talan, the rendezvous with Hamar's freighter waiting in orbit. Their stolen fighters get magnetically clamped to the underside of its cargo container's clever hiding spot, and the freighter immediately jumps to hyperspace, towards some unknown rendezvous point for Stage 2 of this insane mission.
Okay, so what does this all mean for our characters, for the rebellion? In that crucible of combat, we definitely see some individual evolution, or maybe just revealing of true colors. Conrad, despite maybe some initial naivete, he moves closer to becoming a real leader during that firefight, making tough calls on the fly. Flick displays surprising resourcefulness, doesn't he? Adapting in combat despite his, playboy background and lack of traditional skills. Grabbing that rifle was smart. And Skyrus, well, ever the rogue, he solidifies his self-serving nature, strategically avoiding the main fight, being among the first to flee, perfectly embodying that mercenary persona. The immediate lessons for them are stark. Adaptability matters. Individual motivation really comes to the fore in chaos.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if we focus on those really impactful moments and characters, if we were to look at the immediate lessons learned, maybe pick some standouts from this chaos. Two figures really stand out for very different reasons. Our combat MVP, I think, has to be John Tailgunner.
Despite everything.
Despite everything, despite his morally ambiguous persona, his trigger-happy nature, Tailgunner proved to be an invaluable, albeit incredibly chaotic, asset in that fight. His expert marksmanship with the Y-wing turret was pivotal. The sources mentioned him incapacitating a trooper with a single devastating shot. He ultimately secured the team's escape. His reaction to Whisper, while reckless, was the catalyst. It forced the fight, yes, but he also provided crucial cover fire.
Fair point. Effective, if dangerous.
In our role-playing MVP, I think it has to be Toman Tinray. Though he ultimately fell victim to his own impulsivity, Toman gets the award for that memorable final act, blasting Captain Brixus's head like an overripe melon. While it tragically cost him his life, it delivered that catharsis, didn't it? After a lifetime enduring imperial racism, immortalized by those final words, "I survived that ship, but you won't." It's powerful, even if it was fatal. A very strong character moment.
Definitely memorable. Tragic, but memorable. And this whole adventure leaves us with several dangling threads, doesn't it? Crucial implications for what comes next. There's phase 2 of the mission, the actual attack on the Bacta freighter and its Imperial TIE fighter escort. That promises perilous encounters in deep space. We don't know the details yet. Then there's the fallout, that violent escape from the repair yard on Talan. That is sure to attract significant attention from Imperial authorities and specifically from House Melantha, who just lost a captain. Likely means escalated pursuit.
They've kicked the hornet's nest.
Big time. And internally. Those seeds of distrust, friction, sown by Skyrus's greed, Tailgunner's impulsiveness, and now the tragic loss of Toman. They're likely to blossom into more significant interpersonal conflicts within this group. How could they not? And looming over it all is Luthen Rail, still the mysterious puppet master, manipulating events, testing these characters towards some unclear objective, which raises, I think, an important question for you, the listener, to consider. Can this fractured, morally ambiguous team actually become the cohesive fighter wing Luthen seems to envision? Or are they just destined to fall apart under the immense pressure, under their own internal conflicts?
You've just witnessed how even the best laid plans in a desperate rebellion can completely unravel, and how unlikely heroes and maybe unpredictable villains can emerge from the most chaotic moments, from that meticulously planned heist to a bloody, chaotic escape. This deep dive really shows how individual impulses and character quirks can just rewrite the entire script.
Yeah, and the real aha moment here, I think, isn't just about the mission's success or failure. It's about the deeply flawed human and alien element right at its core. When the stakes are literally life and death, do these personal traumas, these questionable loyalties, these raw, untamed impulses, do they become critical liabilities? Or do they, maybe against all odds, forge an unlikely, albeit chaotic, path to survival, maybe even victory? It makes you consider how often, really in any high-pressure situation, it's the unpredictable human factor that can rewrite the entire script, sometimes for better, sometimes definitely for worse.
So will they successfully hijack that Bacta? Will John Tailgunner prove to be their greatest asset, or maybe their ultimate downfall? We'll leave you to ponder those questions until our next deep dive.
Thank you for listening to the Bastard Star Wars RPG Deep Dive Podcast. We'll see you next week.